A very warm welcome to all our attendees and speakers. We really appreciate you all joining the joint webinar with HCL and Google Cloud team on the topic Accelerate Digital Transformation in Manufacturing with Cloud, where we will learn how HCL and Google Cloud can help manufacturing enterprises build innovative and sustainable business models and be future ready. The discussion will revolve around cloud as a catalyst for digital transformation and business innovation, Google Cloud and HCL solutions for manufacturing and best practices, and industry use cases for SAP migration and data center transformation with Google Cloud and its modernization. Our speakers for the day are Venkat Raj Parchuri, Associate Vice President and Industry Principal for Manufacturing for HCL Technologies. He is an industry leader with 18 plus years of experience in manufacturing sector and has evangelized manufacturing industry specific value added services for the existing client ecosystem. The next speaker we have is Eddie Sardeli, Global Strategic Alliance and Business Development Leader for Google Cloud. Eddie has spent last 15 years in Silicon Valley in several roles, most notably leading HANA go-to-market and strategy for SAP's US West region. Eddie is an executive with broad experience across several business functions and technology markets, including cloud, enterprise software, services, direct sales, sales management, business development, solution engineering, and partner development. The next speaker for the day we have is Derek Day, Director SAP on Google Cloud Platform Practice, HCL Technologies. Derek is a 35-year IT veteran with over 26 years of SAP experience and nearly 5 years of cloud experience. Derek is a former platinum consultant with SAP America and has evolved with many of their cutting-edge product and service offerings. Moving on. In case you have any questions, you can always ask your queries in the Q&A section, and we will address all of those queries at the end of the session. Let's start with the webinar. Over to you, Raj.
Thanks, Swapnil. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, where you are. We'll actually spend the next 60 minutes walking you through what's happening in manufacturing industry when it really comes to digital transformation and how cloud really plays a very pivotal role, or our hyperscalers do play a pivotal role, especially Google plays a very pivotal role in this transformation. Before we go there, just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of HCL overview. For those who are not aware about HCL, we are about a $10 billion, IT organization with presence in about 50 countries. We service about 157 nationalities, and we have about 160 entrepreneurs. But the most important thing that we continue to do it, day in and day out, is create innovation for our customers. And in order to do that, we have created about 20 plus innovation labs. We are continuing to open more across the globe, and these innovation labs becomes the test beds or incubation to large initiatives that we do from an innovation point of view. Either we do it internally or we take advantage of the partner ecosystem, i.e. Google. When it really comes to how we interact with our customers, we go to the market from a mode 1, mode 2, mode 3 perspective, which basically makes up the digital enterprise. Typically, mode 1 is your standard application services, infrastructure services, engineering services, and everything else. Mode 2 is where the actual transformation and digitization activities do happen. And this is where there's a lot of shift happening with our customers and within the industry itself, where we play in the space of digital analytics, IoT, Industry 4.0. You name anything that really makes up the digital and transformation roadmaps usually falls under the mode 2. Any activity that we perform through our mode 2 is basically something that brings a lot of agility to the organizations, creates experience, led business operations and gives you deep insights into how you want to perform your business, right? The last one, which is Mode 3, is the latest venture into products and platforms. For those who don't know, HCL has done about $2 billion acquisition over the last 5 years through IBM, through Broadcom, and through many other organizations, as well as homegrown platforms and products that we basically now create that software version of a lot of things that we do, whether it has got to do with your DevOps, whether it's got to do with your security, it's got to do with your e-commerce, which has now become a very important aspect when it comes to manufacturing transformation, right? And one important thing that I want to leave back on this slide again is that our satisfaction rate with the customer is very high, about 97%. And we've been rated as one of the top 100 employees in the world by Forbes. In fact, we are the only Indian service provider that is ranked in there, and we take a lot of pride in that. Move on, Swapna. Okay, so quickly, I just want to touch on what's happening when it comes to manufacturing, when it really look at the business trends, right? Especially the last 14, 15 months has tested every aspect within the business when it comes to manufacturing industry, just because of the repercussions that we have seen because of the COVID, how the manufacturing industry have coped with the COVID situation, how they came back, and as part of the rebounds, what is that they're doing so that they can future-proof their operations, their business in the future, right? So in relation to this, there's a lot of investments and activities that are going in when it comes to manufacturing. I want to pick some which are very important when you really look at transforming enterprises when it comes to manufacturing. Few things that the customers are doing, especially is around the supply chain. Supply chain is one area that got extremely disrupted, and it's continuing to get disrupted when you really look at the semiconductor industry and the downstream industries which depend on them as well, right? So the industry is creating opportunities as well as redefining their supply chain network, redefining their supply chain topology. They're doing extremely new ways of stress testing the supply chain so that they can create that resilience factor. And in order to do this, data becomes the crux point here. Data drives a lot of things. And simulations drive a lot of things. So organizations are trying to build insightful supply chain demand management. They're trying to build insightful track and trace of everything that originates from their suppliers all the way to the customers. They're talking about creating a lot of models and adopting to a few things like multi-sourcing. And when you talk about multi-sourcing, not depending everything on the East, but also trying to be very close to the customer as well. Few other things that they're trying to do as part of the smart factory initiatives is how to create that lights off operations, because one of the things that they've learned is you still have to run your plans even though you're not able to go just because of the pandemic situation, right? So this concept was there for a long time, but it's now catching up a lot of momentum. And in order to do this, the investments around smart warehouses where you can use AGVs, or you can use more of technologies which help you create that 4PL, 3PL type of transportation and logistic models, and trying to redraw the boundaries with the suppliers, and also getting into 3D printing for some consumable parts when it comes to raw materials. There's a few things that the industry is doing, and this adoption is going to continue. And Google is going to play a very crucial role in this with a lot of their solutions that are out there, and the work they're doing with partnership with service providers like HCL. Next slide, Swapna. So I just want to quickly touch upon a few things here. There's technology trends. There are a lot of things that you see on the left, which is happening both from infrastructure, digital apps, and plan perspective. But few things that I want to highlight is on the right side things, right? This is exactly what's happening right now. When the whole world was in the pandemic situation, there were a few things that were attempted as part of short term, and there are a lot of long-term plannings that actually originated out of that and have laid foundation for those long-term objectives as well. So the important and first thing that everybody has done is the workforce management, right? So people went into operating remotely, so creating that agile remote work solutions or workplace solutions was the most important thing. And Google played a very pivotal role in that as well, right? Using Google's collaboration tools so that you can effectively work remotely from your home or anywhere in the world is one important thing. And the other part of it is the remote infrastructure, especially when you really look at some bedrock applications that manufacturing industries run on, which were running in data centers, which were running in your plant data centers, now have found a new home in the cloud, because it is very important that you should be able to access them from anywhere. It is very important that you should be able to manage and monitor them from anywhere, and cloud is the best option for that. And Google has kind of ramped this up very heavily, and it has created that high availability mechanism so that manufacturing industry can feel very safe about it. Few things that the industry is doing, which is going to be long term and also short term, is around your supply chain resilience, your supply chain management, your direct to customers, whether you're talking about B2B or you're talking about B2B2C or even B2C, right? So the e-commerce platforms have picked up tremendously over the last 12 months, right? There's been uptick in that area, especially where manufacturers are trying to get to the customers directly so that they can create new monetization streams or business streams for themselves. Few things that I want to touch upon, which are on the bottom, tagged to be the long term, but this is going to be a reality, is around what everybody is doing from an AR VR perspective, right? You being able to operate your machines remotely, you being able to troubleshoot problems remotely, or even create product overviews using AR VR, right? Because people cannot do road shows anymore. Obviously, other aspects like blockchain, IoT, and robotics are going to play a key role in the next 4 or 5 years as we move away from the pandemic and start living in the new reality, right? Move on, Swapna. Just as a quick overview, as I was mentioning, through our innovation labs as well as through our COEs, we continuously work with many of our partners, and Google is one of our large strategic partner. As part of that, we've created an IoT solution called Real-Time Manufacturing Insights, and this Real-Time Manufacturing Insights runs out of Google platform. And the intent of this real-time manufacturing insights is to give you that AI ML based, digital thread when it comes to the operations of what happens within the manufacturing plant. It's a very use case driven. Organizations don't have to adopt it as a whole. You can basically choose which use case best fits for you as you mature yourself. The multiple use cases that we have developed using BigQuery as well as big data platforms from Google is around the predictive and prescriptive analysis for OEE and the uptime of the machines out there. There are some other use cases that we have developed around energy utilization or around yield management, around quality management using AR, VR technologies apart from the telematic data that comes in from the machines. So there are multiple use cases that we develop. We continue to develop in conjunction with Google as well as with our customers. This is a very configurable product. It can be adopted from a large plant to a small plant to multiple assets. And if you go to the next slide, I just wanted to quickly show what the visualization of this tool would be. So, next slide. This is how you would see the various dashboards that we have developed. You can have a global view of it. You can have a plant level view of it. You can actually go down to the asset level view of it. So if I asset owner, I am only interested about what's happening in my asset. So an operator screen or an asset owner screen gives you the predictive and prescriptive results around what is happening with their asset. When you go to the plant or the plant manager's view, you get a complete view about the various production lines as well as the whole plant in general. And if you look at the CXOs, you get a very detailed view of what's happening across the globe and all the plants that are spread across the globe and what's the health and status of the plants when it comes to operations. And you can also see more dashboards that can provide more root cause analysis and more hypothesis on the relevant activities that are going on. So I'll stop here and hand it over to Eddie. Eddie, you can take from here.
Thank you so much, Raj, and thank you for having me today. I'm really happy to speak with our customers about the trends that we're seeing, especially in this industrial world of manufacturing, right? As Raj mentioned, manufacturing is undergoing a dramatic change and a shift to digital, right? You can actually go to the next slide, please, Sapnil. We're seeing manufacturing technology trends, just like Raj mentioned. Google is well positioned across all these technology trends, right? Whether it's workforce management or collaboration across, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and even vision. We're actually in the leadership position of 29 Gartner Quads and Forrester Waves around all these technologies. And these technologies, by the way, are what our manufacturing customers are really striving to adopt as quickly as possible. And cloud is playing a huge role, right? Moving from the current state of where manufacturing is today to all these connected factories and digitization that these customers are looking for. Right. And if you think about it, customer data, something that Google does really well is consumer intelligence. We've done that really well for over 2 decades. And customer data plays such an important role. These signals and trends that we get from search and from supply chain and signals around the world, even the way customer engagement happens at your customers, whether you're B2B or B2C, those signals play a real critical role in the way you're going to strategize around what products need to be assembled or manufactured and where they need to be moved to based on different demographics or different signals around the world. So, that never was really a forethought in the manufacturing industry, but Customer 360 is playing a critical role in manufacturing as it stands today and moving forward. You can go to the next slide, please. And so if you think about that, what are some of the big things that we're seeing? Some of the big patterns that we're seeing here at Google Cloud with our manufacturing customers, and even out there, as you look across the globe and all the manufacturing customers, what they're doing to become digitized, right? It's all about data-driven transformation, right? It's also, there's a lot of AI and ML-led optimizations and solutions that people are striving for. And so that's super important because when we look closer at data, we almost think, like, as all analytic leaders around the world, right? We're hindered by these traditional data warehouses. We have, data growing exponentially, and we all face those similar challenges around scaling infrastructure, driving advanced analytics, and even, making sure you keep costs down when you do that. With this data growth, what's happening is your traditional data warehouses are not going to be able to sustain. They're not designed to handle that amount of data going from gigabytes to petabytes, right? So we talk about most data warehouses are in the terabyte range. So when you go to terabytes and you start to scale up to petabytes, when you have all these data signals, you probably want to incorporate commerce trends, any kind of other criteria, and merge that with real-time streaming data that's coming off your manufacturing floor, for example. You need to scale quickly, and you need to do this in a cost-effective way, right? And so you really don't have a choice. You have to modernize. And that's super important. And you ask any customer that's moved their SAP or any other manufacturing execution system or supply chain system to Google Cloud, right? Data is what drives transformation, those insights. Their biggest pattern is making sure they harness the data first. And the challenge is going to continue to grow because the amount of data is going to continue to grow. So it's important that you get on the right platform and that you create simplicity and cost effectiveness around it. The other thing to note as well is, you're going to start incorporating a lot of machine learning and, trying to provide better insights into all this information that you're harnessing. And so only the cloud can offer you that elasticity and that flexibility to be able to scale to run these machine learning and artificial intelligence optimizations and outcomes across your data, but also your manufacturing business processes, right? So that you can make better important decisions. At Google, we have something called the Vertex platform for AI. And you probably saw the announcements. It's something new we released. But inside there's a number of different capabilities. One that I'll point out that's super important is what we call auto ML or auto machine learning. And this is actually really cool because it's a platform that allows you to confidently apply models on your data without requiring data science skills, right? And so we've really thought about, how do we make this easy to use, and how can someone, that's actually running systems on our cloud and doing various things like data management or data pipelines or real-time data analysis also be able to apply advanced machine learning capabilities on this information so that you can actually deal with the data deluge that you have today. And it's going to continue to grow, right? You'll see on the slide that it talks about 40% growth between 2020 and 2025. And we saw an explosion last year in data-driven transformation, and that's going to continue to go. We have a lot of great manufacturing customers as references that you can talk to as well. And if you think about Alphabet, we're actually a manufacturing customer as well, our parent company. We're pretty much any industry, and so we actually have done a lot of automation and innovation around manufacturing internally. So feel free to reach out to us as well. You can go to the next slide, Sapnil. So if you think about AI specifically, and you think about kind of where this trend is going, AI has actually reached a level of maturity. It's become an essential ingredient to many of our products, internally. We actually have approximately 10,000 different AI projects that run every single day, every second across the globe. So we've done a lot of work in this area, which is part of the reason why we're the leader in this space. We've obviously have dealt with many consumer products, like we've dealt with consumer experience from the get-go, from the beginning of time that we started. So, we've obviously improved. We have billions of users that use our products. We'll talk a little bit about that in another slide. But that's how we improve our search results. That's how we improve our intelligence around YouTube, around maps, around anything that we do. And we're seeing a lot of promising applications with these capabilities being brought to the manufacturing world. And we have a whole team that is dedicated to manufacturing at Google Cloud that works very closely with HCL to offer some of the capabilities that they're talking about today. And we believe that if we continue to push on automation and digitalization, as we mentioned, that we're actually going to be able to accelerate the application of AI, at scale for all you customers that are on the call today, right? And so I think it's worthwhile to at least take a look, investigate what the potential building blocks are and how we can help you. And we do everything through our partner. Like we offer expertise around our technology, but HCL is the one that actually can implement and provide the best approaches and the building blocks to do this right. They're your partner in this journey with all the support from Google Cloud, okay? And it's not just about increasing the ROI or new initiatives, right, that we see from an optimization perspective, but more importantly, it's about investing and improving in the business processes and the systems that you run. And so I'll give you an example. I'm going to use SAP as an example just because that's a core system of record and workload that we work very closely with. And of course, we have others. But the idea there is we've actually partnered very closely with SAP to actually help with AI and ML-led business process improvement around Industry Cloud, for example, around their business technology platform. You're going to see a lot more innovation coming in the months ahead and the years ahead. But the idea there is to turn information into productive assets by connecting the enterprise and building this intelligent enterprise that we talk about all the time. And just, again, advanced analytics, AI-powered capabilities, that's where it's going. And we are definitely a trusted partner in that space. And so if you move forward to the next slide, we looked at, several different solutions at Google, right? When you think about the left side, these are applications that run billions of users each. I think there's about 9 of them today that have over 1 billion. I think Gmail is probably over 2 billion. It's probably the most widely used one. And so we've done really well in the consumer intelligence space and the consumer experience space. And it's all about helping the world, just harness and run better and run the applications and provide a service to the community. But by doing that, we've actually learned a lot, right? We've had to build infrastructure that's super smart with AI. We've had to provide capabilities that better everyone's life. And so by applying this at scale, we had to actually build infrastructure that's elastic and flexible and agile and secure. Most importantly, secure. So that all the key tenets of what an IT organization is looking for in a large enterprise are put into practice for our customers. Now, Alphabet on the far right of the slide, you'll see that Alphabet is actually, we've built all these capabilities, but we're actually in every industry as well, right? So I mentioned before, we actually are a device manufacturer. We're a retailer. We're an energy company. We actually generate our own power to power our network and our infrastructure. We're also carbon neutral, so we're a very sustainable organization, which is super important because everything we do is all about efficiency. So we actually save you money when you run on our infrastructure. And when you run on our infrastructure, we're actually doing something very positive for the planet, right? And so in order to solve a lot of these challenges across the whole company, you're seeing on the right the technologies that we built to innovate. And these technologies and these innovations and also the automation around it is all made available to HCL and to our customers so that you can take advantage of this as well as some of our other customers have. So if you go to the next slide, let's talk a little bit about some customer examples in a little bit, but I wanted to talk about what those key differentiators are, right? Like, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I believe we've gotten to the point where people see cloud as a transformation cloud now. It's not about hosting applications or solutions, but it's about really, really using cloud to help accelerate your digital transformation journey. And there's a couple of things that Google does that are really unique, right? So number one, we own our own secure global network. And so that offers low latency, it offers security, it offers one virtual private cloud, and offers you the ability to really run your applications across the globe in a very efficient manner on the best performing and the best optimized hardware infrastructure that we have. Now, underneath the covers, there is a hardware and resilient infrastructure, but everything runs in a virtual layer, which allows you to have complete reliability, uptime, security, and flexibility. And then, of course, on the far right, we lead with Google expertise and innovation, right? It's all about not only taking advantage of the smart infrastructure and all the innovations around manufacturing with AI, ML, and even data, but also the innovation that we bring to the table. For example, if you're integrating into some of our other entities like Nest, as an example, where people are doing a lot of home automation type capabilities. You can move to the next slide. So just to double click a little bit on what this all means, right? We're the largest, if we were to separate Google Cloud or Google Cloud's infrastructure or network, we can actually be one of the largest telecoms in the world, just to give you an idea of what our network is like. The size of it. It's the largest privately owned global network. It's operating in the cleanest cloud, as I mentioned before. And if you think about what that looks like, you're going from point of presence to point of presence, from data center to data center, all in a protected fiber optic cable that runs under the sea. It runs from city to city. And we have over 25 regions globally and more coming. Each region has typically 3 availability zones, and that allows you to do production HA and disaster recovery. And we offer 4 nines, high availability, 4 nines reliability. Sorry, so you can literally have 0 downtime on your most mission critical applications. What that means is we don't actually provide or bake downtime into our contracts when we're dealing with customers. What that means is that if you have a hardware planned maintenance, anything from the hypervisor down, or even unplanned maintenance where there's a hardware failure, your applications stay up and running. We have a feature called live migration that does that. And so if you go to the next slide, you'll see exactly what that is. But there's stringent data regulations as well. We protect Sorry, click one more time. That was a little bit of a shark-proof image that popped up there to show that even our cables under the sea are shark-proof and nobody can penetrate them. Sorry, back one slide, Sapnil. So on the live migration note that I was mentioning, what you're thinking, what you're doing here is the hardware hypervisor maintenance that's happening under the covers does not impact, in this case, your SAP HANA system. As you're seeing, there's a couple of deployment options that we're showing there for OLTP and for OLAP. If you're running a 12 terabyte S4 HANA system or a BW system or any supply chain system for that matter, and we have various sizes, of course, but if you're running a system and there's something that happens to the underlying infrastructure, because of this live migration feature, which is very unique to Google Cloud, you do not experience downtime. What that means is if you're a manufacturer that typically signs up for 10 hours of downtime a year, for example, with a provider, I can actually, at Google Cloud, we can actually give you that 10 hours back. And so for a lot of manufacturers, that's $1 million per hour of downtime that's impacted to the business. So if you do $1 million per hour, I give you 10 hours back. It's like giving you back $10 million of business. It's super important. And this is by far one of the biggest features. There's also data protection features like data custodian, similar to access control. And then last but not least, everything at rest and in motion is encrypted 100%. So everything is super protected. And we obviously offer many layers of security. So this is a little bit about kind of what we do. Google is one of those companies that had to protect information from the beginning, and everything we've done from an innovation perspective on our regular applications, what we do from a consumer intelligence perspective has been applied to the wonderful world of manufacturing, whether it's IoT, SAP, any other manufacturing execution system, or MII, or anything else that you run today. You can go forward. The last one is the slide that we just glanced at before. Sapnil, if you can go forward one slide. It's all about innovation. And so innovation meaning we bring the best of Google. So actually stay right here. This is perfect. So what does that mean, right? If you're running an SAP application and you're running a system of record with business processes, and then you're doing some innovation with Google Cloud around AI, ML, for example, vision, where we can actually detect defects in a product as it's going through the assembly line or as it's going through the manufacturing process. We can actually do this at better accuracy than the human eye because of the machine learning and the vision technology that's applied. And then you can start to integrate these search trends, these data signals that we have, and you bring that all together. And that's how you create these innovative applications or innovative use cases that actually drive the transformation of your business, right? So it's about bringing the three worlds together, right? The consumer trend information, the signals in the supply chain, everything that's out there, the technology that Google provides that complements the SAP applications or other applications that you run, and bringing those together with HCL as your primary provider to provide you those enablers to digitally transform your manufacturing business. Okay, so this is a great example of what that looks like. And I like to use the unicorn because the unicorn is truly in the middle at the intersect of all this. And that's where you get the most benefit. And it's all based on customer outcome. Everything we do as a partnership is all based on what you need as a customer, where you're headed as a business, and how we help you pivot in that direction. Sapnil, next slide. Right. So let's talk about one of our customers. I mentioned, we were going to talk about a couple of examples, and then I'll hand it back to HCL. But Kaiser Compressor is a great example of SAP and Google Cloud coming together and really combining the opportunity of AI with the strength of SAP's manufacturing solution portfolio, right? So the digital manufacturing here is basically they're doing this by leveraging our AutoML capabilities that I mentioned before without having a data science team, and integrating the Vision API or the Vision technology that we have. And essentially, they're doing visual inspection for the quality assurance of their products. So it's nothing, completely out of this world. It's very simple technology. And if you think about what's happened during the pandemic is you've had to, manufacturers have had to gone to a situation where they're kind of socially distanced, even on the manufacturing floor. Maybe there's not as much staff operating. And what we've seen is we've seen manufacturing customers leverage vision to help with the manufacturing business process and integrate into the back-end systems of record to be able to reduce errors and cost and increase quality, right? That's the idea. So you have less manual intervention, and you could speed up your end-to-end manufacturing process by doing that. And that's one of their, their big assessments that they've done is they said, look, we were able to actually speed up and reduce costs and reduce errors. And that at the end of the day impacts the bottom line significantly. Okay. And so if you go to the next slide, I'm going to talk about another customer called Talgo. And Talgo is actually founded in 1942. Sorry, apologize, I had an extra slide in there, but yeah, one more slide. Talgo is founded in 1942. They're actually a Spanish manufacturer of high passenger trains. I think they have over 150 trains to date, approximately there. They went from somewhere around 110 to 150 very recently. So what's happening with them is they're streaming a lot of this sensor data off their trains in real time, and they're applying machine learning to all these, to do predictive maintenance. And they're doing this without stopping the service, right? And so you think about this for a second, is that you're streaming all this data where we have all this sensor data. As they added those extra 40 trains, they had more data coming in. So there's higher expectations around maintenance and there's more stress. And so being able to stream that sensor data in real time and apply machine learning to stop problems without stopping the service is huge. And we hear a lot about this too, like in other industries. For example, we have a utilities company, AES, in the United States that runs wind turbines, right, to generate power. They actually fly drones over their wind turbines to capture images and use machine learning to see if the wind turbine needs service. But they don't stop the wind turbine. They keep generating power, right? So this is all about using machine learning and vision and AI to actually drive improvement without disrupting your service. And so if you look at the trains, they operate in Spain and Saudi Arabia, their maintenance expectations are really high, right? And they're also storing a lot of this data in our BigQuery data warehouse. So you heard a lot about the data problems that we talked about before and being able to, modernize your data warehouse. BigQuery is a petabyte scale serverless architecture. What that means is it's a zero-touch server platform. So obviously there's a lot of hardware powering it, but it's elastic. So when you throw more queries or more questions at it, you throw more data at it, and you put more users on it, it'll automatically scale itself to respond to those queries. And the queries are blazing fast, right? If you think about all this IoT data, you can't sit there and try to manage resources and try to scale your system so that you can get it down to a sub-second response time. The platform itself can do that and scale itself and actually provide those queries and responses very quickly and ingest the data very, at bulk and very quick as well. And so it's all about high speed. It's all about ease of use, and not having to spend time managing infrastructure and resources. Okay, so that's super important. And I'm gonna say it one more time because it's super important for everybody to understand. The ingest modeling analysis process, as well as the machine learning process, this is an end-to-end platform to be able to offer you this analysis in real time. And that's something that we've done a really good job at. We've built this platform from several decades ago just to be able to harness all our search information. And so we're now applying it to every industry and every data problem that's around the world. And I'll say this too, is there's a deep integration between HANA. I've spent a lot of time at SAP and I was part of the HANA team, as you heard before. There's a deep integration between HANA, whether it's HANA Cloud or HANA on-prem or wherever you're running it, with Google BigQuery. So you could actually think about an extended data lake concept. And you could run machine learning algorithms like TensorFlow as well inside HANA or inside BigQuery. So there's a great collaborative and two-way process there. Not to get too technical, but that's the idea, is that you'll be able to to really take advantage of the best of both worlds and bring simplicity and ease of use to your customer base. So with that, I'll hand it to Derek, who's going to talk to you a little bit more in detail about the approach. And those were some of our customers we'll share with you, but we have many references, like as I mentioned. But over to you, Derek. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Eddie. And thank you, Raj. Thanks for joining, everyone. Glad to have you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about SAP and in our unique partnership that HCL has with both SAP and Google regarding bringing SAP solutions to bear in the Google Cloud. Now, one quick fun fact about me is that I actually worked on the first implementation of SAP on Google at Google. So that's a little fun fact about me. And but we're going to go ahead and talk about this partnership. First of all, the partnership between SAP or between HCL and SAP and Google is a 360-degree partnership. And we are co-innovators with both HCL and Google. And this allows us to give you one-stop shopping for de-risking your cloud migration and operation, helping to lower your TCO, and to give you flexible options regarding your cloud strategy. So all of this proven and stable de-risk solutions, flexible and cost-effective solutions, integrated governance and SLAs, so we're able to meet your objectives concerning your SLAs, and we are innovation ready. Next slide, please. So what HCL does, what we bring to the table is we drive the end-to-end SAP journey on Google Cloud from things like intelligent rehosts, which that's what's commonly called a lift and shift. But it's a little bit more than that, because it's not just taking your data and moving it from one place to the other. It's finding what is the most practical, what is the most efficient, what is the most optimized way of moving your data into the cloud. The second thing is the value platform as a service. Basically, how do we leverage this platform in order to best suit your business needs? And then augmented intelligence. This is artificial intelligence, but it's also augmented intelligence because it's helping you to apply this AI in such a way that it brings about a true business transformation and contributes to an overall maturity model. Next slide, please. And this slide basically articulates the previous slide in more detail. In the intelligent rehost, again, we have strategic advisory, assessment, migration, and all of this. And let me say this just to kind of simplify the slide, is that we're talking about manufacturing here, right? So when we talk about manufacturing, we're talking about applying an SAP implementation in a build or a manufacturing model. In other words, we're first assessing the need. Second, we're designing the solution. Then we're prototyping the solution to proof of concept. Then we actually build the solution, and then we actually run the solution. So what we're doing is we're actually using a factory model in bringing our solutions to bear for our manufacturing customers. Next slide, please. So there are two specific SAP applications that I want to talk about. Everybody's familiar with S/4HANA. That's SAP's state-of-the-art, in-memory ERP solution. But there are also bolt-ons that are specific to manufacturing, and they work in conjunction with SAP to basically streamline and optimize your manufacturing operations. So the first thing we talk about is SAP Manufacturing Execution, which this is something specific to discrete industries. One of the things that is really cool about the technology that we have now is it used to be that an assembly line, let's use Nissan as an example. Nissan has a plant in Smyrna, Tennessee, and I believe that they build 4 product lines on that assembly line. Through tools like SAP ME, they are able to actually build 4 different product lines on the same assembly line without downtime. In other words, the plant is able to flexibly shift from one product line to another based on demand, and I'll get to that in a minute. So basically, this is one of the things that we at HCL have worked as co-innovators with SAP on manufacturing. Next slide, please. So now we talk about integration and intelligence, or MII, which this is one of SAP's first key manufacturing options, which it allows you to rapidly adapt to any manufacturing process. And this is more geared toward process manufacturing, whereas the other ME refers to discrete manufacturing. And so what this does is it allows you to integrate shop floor solutions and also taking visual data. And Eddie had referred to this in the utility example, where you have drones that are examining windmills. And in this particular case, we have devices that are able to look at a product and determine its quality based on that. Now, what I want to say here is that we're able to take these solutions and couple those with S/4HANA and using BigQuery with Google's native ML and AI, and all of these things together work toward transforming systems of record into systems of insight. Now we're able to take all of this data that we have, we're collecting data, we're entering data, we're amassing data, and now we're able to take that data, and through BigQuery and ML and AI, now we're able to take information like, say, from social media. Another case study, let's say backpacks. We all have, all those of us who have kids, you deal with backpacks. And right before school starts, you have social media. Social media determines what's going to be the hot product. And so through BigQuery, we're able to look at social media trends, and we're able to translate that into demand signal-based manufacturing. So now we're able to look at what is the hot trend and then determine in advance what's needed to produce these G.I. Joe or My Little Pony backpacks just in time for school. And it's really it's really powerful. Next slide, please. So now I want to talk about some HCL differentiators, because basically cloud is cloud is cloud. Now Google has some unique things about it that make it special, and I want to call those out before I go into this. One is that what makes Google Google? And every customer should ask that question, because Google, like Eddie said, is a manufacturing company. It is an information company. It is an energy company. All of these things are what makes Google Google, and their tools, their talent, their tech, they're deploying those to make their enterprise better. What they've done is they've democratized these tools and made them available to customers to help make their customers' businesses better. Now, what HCL brings to the table is we have some bespoke IPs. And I'm going to talk about this, the SAP Studio Framework. This is a DevOps planning tool. It helps you to determine what is actually needed from a custom development standpoint in your SAP environment. It helps to gather customer requirements. It helps to assess what is the best approach to help design and prototype what is going to be the outcome. And then actually we're going to build and run as a factory. So what this does is this gives us a process-oriented methodology by which we're able to take our customers' requirements and translate them into real-world, practical, applicable solutions. Next slide, please. Another one is the HCL Foundation deployment, or the one-click foundation, as we like to call it. And one of the things that I experienced in my work with Google was when we were basically setting up the platform for our SAP implementation, that this was a process that took basically a little over a month to do. To basically configure all of the compute, all of the storage, all of the network, all of that. And what one-click does is we're able to take what we have determined, what is the target sizing going to be, and we're able to terraform this in hours or days instead of weeks and months. This helps us to rapidly deploy solutions and to basically we're just faster. That's the best way I can put it. And in this, we're able to do infrastructure as a code, to employ Terraform and PowerShell scripts to do this. And then also we're able to rapidly configure the landing zone with configuration management, network security, and automation tools. All of this in basically a one-stop run. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we're doing here is we're delivering innovation to our SAP customers. The big thing is what anybody can build SAP, anybody can install SAP. But what we're doing is we're building SAP intelligently. We're migrating workloads intelligently. And we're doing it in such a way that we are leveraging all of the power that is at the customer's disposal because of what they have available in the Google network. And here's the other thing too, because all of this is baked in to GCP. Now what you're doing is you're building a holistic solution that doesn't require a lot of external integration. It doesn't require a lot of tweaking. It doesn't require a lot of outside expertise. Basically, between HCL and our innovative partnerships with both SAP and Google, we are able to bring those solutions to bear, and again, in a one-stop shop. So some of the things that we're able to do, we work with Google with Apogee to basically containerize APIs and move them in an intelligent manner from a source data center or even another cloud into the Google ecosphere. So this is basically simplifying all of your interfaces. It really helps to make that more. It's a faster approach and it's a more integrated approach. So we're able to modernize and extend your SAP systems through these tools. Now, the next thing is harmonizing your business data and automating your analytics. We couple SAP with BigQuery. And again, one of the things that I did with our implementation of SAP on Google at Google is that we coupled it with BigQuery to do some complex banking transactions. And so we're able to take, as Eddie said, this serverless petabyte scale data warehouse to do complex queries. And these queries are scalable. There's literally no limit to how much data you can process through this. And this data can be gathered by, say, Google PubSub. So you have subscription-based data or streaming data that's coming into BigQuery, or you can use social media inputs, or you can use IoT. There's a number of different things that you could do to bring this data into BigQuery to help query the data. And what this does is this is now taking your SAP data, making it relevant by external data, and unlocking the value of this data. In other words, you're turning your data from you're transforming your data from a mere asset into an actual employee. Now, the next thing, we're taking SAP data and external Google data, search engine data, SEO data, all of these things, and again, social media trends, things like that. And that finally, we take that and we build machine learning models. And these machine learning models are learning from all of the data that's being gathered. And again, like Eddie had mentioned, that we have TensorFlow that can be done externally, or it can be done in the context of BigQuery to build these machine learning models, which then in turn are used to build AI scenarios, whereby now complex business decisions can be made in a fraction of the time. In other words, they get things that would take committees or engineers or analysts hours, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours to develop a reaction to market forces. These things can be done near instantaneously using your SAP data with your AI ML. And that is really, really powerful. So again, one of the things that I want to leave you with is we, through our partnership with SAP and Google, we have co-innovation labs with both, and we're actually working to build industry vertical solutions, domain specific solutions that are going to continuously improve the processes of our customers and help them to unlock the value of their data, turning their system of record into systems of insight. And I think that wraps it up. So, Raj, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Derek, and thanks, Eddie, for the insightful session. So, Swapnil, have you got any questions from the attendees?
Yes, Raj, we have a lot of questions pouring in, but we will manage to get on with few specific ones, one directed to each the speaker. So the very first question that we have gotten here is for Eddie. How easy is it to take advantage of Google Cloud technologies such as BigQuery and machine learning once I'm running on SAP on Google Cloud?
Yeah, that's a very simple question to answer. So one of the big things is the fact that you're living inside one Google Cloud console, and so a lot of the services that we run are easily launched from the Google Cloud console. So I'll give you an example. You can actually spin up a greenfield S4 environment in under 20 minutes. You can spin up a HANA system very quickly in under 30 seconds. There's a lot, like Derek mentioned automation with Terraform. There's a lot of pre-scripted templates for SAP in general. But then when you look at the other technologies to answer the question, like BigQuery, AutoML, and some of the other capabilities, we have data pipelines like even data prep and Google PubSub, like Derek talked about. These are all services inside your Google Cloud Console, and you essentially create a project, and you essentially source that project and instantiate it. And for example, you would, for Google BigQuery as an example, you would start up a Google BigQuery instance. You would give it a project name. You would then ingest data into it. And there's a whole documentation around how to do that, but you can simply look at cloud.google.com, go to documentation for BigQuery, and you could see all the startup steps to get that going. It's fairly simple and straightforward. I'm not the practical guy that does the actual queries and the SQL optimizations and all that wonderful stuff, but there's also accelerators, right? So HCL, for example, can take our order to cash, procure to pay, sales and distribution, materials management accelerators, where you could actually, with a script, build all the SAP data models inside BigQuery. And then you can put your own analytics tool on top of it. We like to promote Looker, of course, because that's our BI tool, but you could put SAP Analytics Cloud on top of it. You could put other solutions on top of it as well, okay? So that's my answer at a high level, but there's definitely documentation on all the necessary steps.
Thank you, Eddie. The next question is directed to Derek. The question is, what other factors should I consider when comparing SAP S/4HANA to Google Cloud migration project?
Well, one of the big things is Eddie had mentioned live migration, And when you're going to patch your systems, live migration helps to facilitate that, so that in such a way that you don't have downtime. Normally, if you're applying Linux patches or Windows patches, that requires significant downtime. In this particular case, you don't. The other thing too is that the flexibility of Google. One of the things that when you are using other hypervisors, basically you're locked into a specific machine shape. And when you have that machine shape, that's what you're contracted for. One of the things that Google does is in its billing, it tells you what the utilization of each of your instances is. So in some cases, you might find you have something that's underutilized or it's bored. Then you might have something where it's overutilized and you need to get more capacity. Well, only Google allows you the flexibility that that if you are bored in one instance and overextended in another, you can apply the credit that you have for that one machine shape that's bored to the one that needs more more capacity. So I think that when you think of flexibility, when you think of innovation, another thing that and Eddie could probably speak to this better than me, but when you contract out for AWS or not, can't mention anybody by name, sorry. when you go to other hypervisors, basically you're getting servers. But with Google, you're getting a highly virtualized, highly scalable environment that can be reshaped on demand based on your needs. And that's, you know, those are just some of the things that that I can think of. Also, the fact that basically right now, I believe that SuccessFactors and there are a couple of others like SAP's training environments all run exclusively on Google Cloud. So there is a deep relationship between Google Cloud and SAP, and I think that innovation and collaboration is something that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Yeah, I'll clarify a little bit, Derek, too. So all of S/4HANA development globally is done on Google Cloud. Over 20,000 developers. We manage over 7,000 application VMs and over 3,500 HANA VMs for SAP. We actually built a private data center for SAP in Frankfurt. So the SAP is moving a lot of their workloads from their own data center over to the Google Cloud powered data center. So there's a lot of innovation happening. SuccessFactors and Ariba and some of the other applications have been re-platformed into a multi-cloud environment. So they're using Anthos Kubernetes for containerization to actually make those multi-cloud and to be able to run them anywhere for their customers. So there's a lot of good innovation with SAP happening. And then the last thing I'll touch on that you touched on as well, Derek, is, you know, when it comes to these AI ML led capabilities, the way we're doing things, the way we're kind of OEMing a lot of this, creating transparency and simplicity for our customers. That's something that, you could think about a scenario one day where it's modularized ERP, which is the direction SAP is heading into, where you can actually think about a long-term roadmap of actually having a containerized ERP with these extensible capabilities that I think is super important for our customers.
So I think we are already about 8 minutes over. Swapnil, I think we should wrap it up. And again, I thank everyone for attending this session. Hope we gave you enough insights both into our partnership with SAP and Google, especially with Google, and how we are collaborating at multi-level to create those industry-specific solutions, as well as building certain go-to-market strategies that will help manufacturing customers pivot to their digital strategy that they are adopting internally. Anything else, Eddie, you want to mention before we wrap it up?
No, thank you so much. And thank you for everybody for sticking around. And we went a little over, really appreciate it. Hopefully it was super informative. So
awesome.
feel free to reach out.
Sure. Derek, anything else you want to add?
I just want to thank everybody for joining, but one of the things that I want to throw at you is an intangible, and that's that it's one thing for someone to know what they know, but it's another thing for people that love what they know. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the Google partnership is that we actually like each other and we work well together. And so you want to have that kind of chemistry that comes to the table that helps to bring positive solutions to you.